All right, let's talk about something huge for anyone running workloads on Google Cloud. How do you build a disaster recovery strategy that actually makes business sense? We're going to show you how to tie every single dollar you spend on protection directly to business value. We're talking about turning DR from this drain on your budget into a real strategic asset.
So let me ask you something. Does this sound familiar? Is your disaster recovery budget just a black hole? You know you're spending a ton of money on it, but when you look at that bill, you just can't shake the feeling that it's all disappearing into the void. Are you spending too much? Not enough? Is the money even protecting the right stuff? You know, it's a super common problem, and it all boils down to one thing: a fundamental misalignment.
I mean, think about it like this. You wouldn't lock up your vacation photos in a bank vault, right? And you're definitely not going to store gold bars in a shoebox under your bed. It's just common sense. You match the protection to the value of the thing you're protecting. And yet, so many of us, when it comes to our super complex IT systems, we end up doing the technical version of exactly that every single day.
So really, this all comes down to two totally different ways of thinking. You've got the old way, which is this one-size-fits-all approach. Just throw the most expensive protection at everything and hope for the best. And then there's the strategic way. And this is what we're all about today. It's value-driven, it's tiered, it's about making sure the protection perfectly fits how important each workload really is to the business. Okay, so this puts us right in the middle of what I call the disaster recovery dilemma. And if you're a senior architect or a cloud leader, I bet you're feeling this right now. It's that constant push and pull, right, between needing to be resilient and getting hammered to control costs. And that dilemma, it causes some very real headaches. You know what I'm talking about. You end up spending a fortune to give your dev environment Fort Knox level security. Well, maybe, just maybe, you're underprotecting the actual crown jewels of your business. It's this total misalignment that makes it almost impossible to go to your boss and justify the budget in a way that makes any sense. So, how do we fix this? Well, the answer isn't just throwing more tech at the problem. It's a whole shift in how we think. It all starts with one simple, super powerful idea: matching your technical protection directly to how critical that service is to the business. And the tool that gets us there is called a business impact analysis, or a BIA. Now, this is crucial. This is not a tech exercise. This is a business conversation. The BIA becomes your single source of truth for figuring out what really matters to the business. What's the real cost of an outage? In dollars, in reputation, in operations? That's what the BIA tells you. And that leads us to this quote, which just hits the nail on the head. The cost of protection should never exceed the value of the asset being protected. I mean, that's it. That should be your North Star for your entire continuity strategy. Honestly, if you walk away with just one thing today, let it be this. Okay, great in theory, right? But how do we actually do this? Well, it all starts with step one. We have to classify our workloads. We need to take what we learned from that business impact analysis and turn it into clear, actionable tiers that our tech teams can actually work with. And to do that, we use two super important metrics. You've probably heard of them: RTO and RPO. So RTO, Recovery Time Objective. That's all about time. How fast do you have to be back up and running? Then there's RPO, Recovery Point Objective. That's about data. How much data, measured in time, can you afford to lose? These two things, RTO and RPO, they're basically the Rosetta Stone for translating what the business needs into what engineering has to build. All right, let's make this concrete. Let's imagine a company. We'll call them Innovate Corp. They've got three main applications. First, their e-commerce site. It's mission critical. Every minute it's down, they're bleeding cash. Then, their internal HR portal. Yeah, it's important, but if it's down for a few hours, it's not the end of the world. And finally, their dev/test environment. Totally non-critical. Now, look at the RTO and RPO for each one. They're wildly different, right? As they should be. So, right off the bat, based on that analysis, we can build a super simple classification system. Tier 1, mission critical. That's our e-commerce site. Tier 2, business important. The HR portal fits right in there. And Tier 3, non-critical. Hello, dev/test environment. See, just this simple act of putting things in buckets is the foundation for everything else we're going to do. Which brings us, naturally, to step 2. We know what we need to protect, and we know how much protection it needs. Now we can start mapping those needs to the actual protection patterns we have available on Google Cloud. And on GCP, you've got this whole spectrum of options. You see it laid out here. Down at the bottom, you've got simple backup and restore. It's the cheapest, but it's also the slowest to get you back online. Then you move up through warm standby, hot standby, all the way to the top, a cross-region active-active setup. That gives you basically zero downtime, but man, it comes with the biggest price tag and the most complexity. And here's the kicker. The most expensive option is not always the right answer. Okay, this is the moment. This is where it all clicks into place. We've figured out our business tiers, we've looked at our technical options. Now we're going to put them together into one single powerful tool, the strategic continuity matrix. Now, don't just think of this as some spreadsheet or a diagram. This matrix is a communication tool. It's a bridge. It connects the super technical world of your cloud engineers with the business-focused world of your leadership. It's how you make your DR strategies something everyone can understand and get behind. And boom, here it is in action. Look how beautifully simple this is. For Innovate Corp, their Tier 3 dev environment, it just gets a simple backup and restore. Done. The Tier 2 HR portal, it gets a warm standby, a nice balance between cost and recovery speed. And only the Tier 1 absolutely mission-critical e-commerce site gets that pricey, high-availability, active-active pattern. See? There's no wasted money, and there's no unacceptable risk. Everything is exactly where it should be. And this quote just says it all. The goal is not to have the best DR plan. The goal is to have the right DR plan. It's so true. If you just chase the best, you're almost guaranteed to over-engineer things and waste a ton of money. The real goal is to build the right plan, the one that's perfectly custom fit to what your business actually needs. So, once you have this matrix, you're holding a seriously powerful tool. You can walk into any budget meeting and justify your spending with cold, hard business logic. You can stop your teams from gold-plating systems that just don't need it. And, this is so important, this isn't a one-and-done thing. This is a living document. As your business changes, you just revisit the matrix to make sure your DS strategy is changing right along with it. All right, as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with one last thing to chew on. Creating this matrix, it's a massive leap forward for your tech strategy, no doubt about it. But remember, the technology, that's only half the story. The next and maybe even more critical question you have to ask is, you've mapped your technology, but have you mapped your teams? Because the most brilliant plan on paper means nothing if you don't have people who are ready and able to execute it when things go wrong.
And that's our explainer. So get out there, start building your own continuity matrix, and you can finally stop throwing money into that disaster recovery black hole. Thanks for tuning in.